Thanks for joining us for another episode in this Tune Into Tourism series looking at the 4 key priorities of the Outlook 2030 tourism strategy. This episode is all about providing memorable experiences, but how can we cater to that desire for authentic, live like local experiences in a way that's sustainable both for our places and for our businesses? Well, to find out more, we went to speak to Robin Wersnap, owner of the award-winning small group tour operator Rabbie's Trailburners, to hear how they are surviving as we emerge from the pandemic and their goals for the future.
Well, we've always been about delivering amazing and memorable experiences to all of our customers, and it's what we built the business on. It's been the word of mouth from our customers that have built more and more demand from more customers, and us being able to grow and expand and create more jobs. And we've always focused on trying to look after our people, support them, and build a culture of care that they care about the customers. And we're very, very proud of how we've achieved all of these things. We have a number of different policies within the company which we've retained and remain constant, such as volunteering, and we provide buses for them to volunteer, doing things like litter picking or going to do path building in some of the communities that we visit. We are a living wage employer. So throughout this whole last 2 years, we've tried to retain, and we do retain, all of the values that we had in the business before, regardless of the cost or whatever, because they were fundamentally important to us. In terms of going forward, some of the challenges that we've been facing are quite a lot of logistical challenges. There's our supply chain, because they have suffered in the same way, have their own challenges of being able to support answering the phone, take bookings. Some of them have basically had to restrict their own trading hours because they may not have a full team. And so we've had to try and adapt and revolve around that. Now, the wonderful thing about what we do is we take people off the beaten track a lot and into the rural communities, and I suppose that has been considered by most consumers to be a safe place as well in the last couple of years. I think what we discover in our research is that although the environmental impacts are not necessarily high on their agenda in choosing a tour operator, we find in feedback from them that actually it's become more important as a result of some of the experiences they've had with us. So I think these are some of these policies that we have embedded in our culture and in amongst our people, and our people believe in them as well. And that rubs off on our customers, but it also rubs off on their experience along the way, and their love of Rabbie's and their desire to come back and repeat and explore other parts of the world with us as well. Most of our customer base was international. 80% of our customer base were from overseas. So by necessity in the last 2 years, it's been very, very difficult for those people to come here. We focus more marketing on the local population across England and the Wales and the British Isles. Some of them were existing customers, and then it was a bit of word of mouth, but we were getting new ones. Throughout this, we've had a number of customers who'd booked tours with us in 2020 who kept credit with us and have kept credit with us even to today. They had a love for our company, I think, and they wanted to support us, and when they wanted to come back, they could enjoy that then. And it's been quite humbling how many of the customers who have supported us in this way. And there have been instances where they've actually just donated the tour that they bought in 2020 to us and said, next time I'm coming back, I'll be buying another tour anyway, but you can have this to help keep you going, help support your people. Where the demand lies is a harder one to judge at this point, because we've been trading at such low capacity over the last 2 years. To assess trends has been very difficult. Although one area we have seen a big pickup is in terms of private group tours and private requests and families wanting to travel together. And we've been ramping up and focusing on trying to deliver that as best we can. And so that is a really interesting breeding ground for new product development as well, because you find out a bit more about other people's interests, and that can be something which you can develop into scheduled tours for the future. We have, with the support of Visit Scotland, a fund. We've developed a new sort of sustainable, responsible tour, which involves partnership with some of Diageo's visitor centres and the whisky experiences, and that is to add to our portfolio of whisky-style tours, which are similar in nature and turns about being sustainable and taking them to these communities, staying in those communities, visiting those distilleries, and enjoying sort of responsible businesses and experiences with them. Well, what we see from our customers is they're looking for sort of very authentic local cultural experiences, and that encompasses just understanding more about how people live and work and manage the land in the Highlands and Islands of Scotland, how their systems live, whether that be through fishing industry, agriculture, woodland management, forest management, etc. So experiences that actually bring a lot of that to life, and the folklore and the history for our customers are exactly what they're looking for. They're just wanting to discover a new place, a new culture, and there's the beautiful scenery that we have. There's the storytelling of our guides brings a lot of this to life, but where that can be accentuated and added to, I believe, is exactly what our customers are looking for. Well, some of them we will not advertise and we will not promote, because they are built by our driver guides in communities with local people. And it's based on honesty and honesty boxes and taking people with respect, and those people in those communities do not want a huge mass tourism effect coming to their premises. So we will keep those experiences a surprise, part of the experience that our guides can deliver, and they are dependent on, of course, that person in the community being available at the time, etc. So there's the hidden gems that we have, and which our customers will hopefully remember all their times, but they're not something that we're going to promote. Out with that, many of our customers are looking to do the classical kind of things and see the great castles that we have and experience those. In the past, we had the great privilege of being able to take people into Kilchurn Castle in the winter time when it was locked, because we were allowed to have a key from Historic Scotland, and that was just such a special experience because nobody else was able to do that at the time. And when in return we used to look after and keep an eye on the castle for Historic Scotland, and so it was a win-win for both parties. So it's things like that we do. We work with our relationships with communities to build experiences, and that's built on trust and respect between the way our guides will perhaps manage some of our customers to behave in a responsible way when they're visiting, to understand the parameters upon which this engagement is taking place. And it just is incredibly enriching, I think, for the customers. We're always looking for new ideas and new experiences for our customers. So anybody out there who has business ideas, there's many different approaches. Partly it can be just locally with the guides when you meet them on the road, and you can offer them that thing that can be adapted into an itinerary. That is one way. Another way is to officially approach us and come to our product development team, and we will look at options and look at how we develop itineraries. This is how a number of itineraries have been built in the past, when we've had approaches from attractions or experiences and said, we've got this and this, and it germinates ideas in us. We've developed some themed tours in recent years around whiskey, gin and beer, and that's working in partnership, and that's based on the fact that those experiences were there and that we could work it into an itinerary and develop an experience. Partly what we love about our business is that we believe it helps to break down barriers between cultures and people. Our main priorities towards 2030 is actually, is to rebuild the business and rebuild it back to sort of capacity, scale, and rebuild the balance sheet so we can forward plan properly without constantly concerned about cash flow issues, etc. And we can invest and carry on and do more good work and expand our business and product range, expand our range in Scotland, expand our programs out of new hubs which we've established in Aberdeen, expand our hubs in Inverness, which has actually been one of the more successful city bases since the pandemic, and Glasgow, and continue to build our offer, as well as our business is now becoming European and UK-wide, so build our programme in Ireland and England and Wales and across the southern Europe at this time. So and towards 2030, we just want to build and create more and more amazing experiences under the same sort of philosophy that we've always had, to create more experiences for our customers to come and visit and enjoy local destinations and help sustain local cultures and communities.
In this episode, we're focused on memorable experiences. Now, the strategy aspires for Scottish tourism to provide a wide range of immersive, responsible and authentic visitor experiences that reflect our strengths and changing visitor trends, meeting all their expectations, and for each visitor to enjoy a world-class experience. To talk about how we can do that in a digital world, I'm joined now by Ian McNeill, Managing Director of Whereverly, who work in partnership with tourism groups, communities and further education institutions to create digital apps. Thanks for joining us, Ian. Now, your tagline is making journeys memorable, which ties in perfectly with the theme of this episode, which is all about that key priority for the strategy of creating memorable experiences. So tell us what Whereverly is all about, what you set out to do for the visitor and for the Scottish tourism industry as a whole.
For the visitor, we really wanted the visitors to feel emotionally connected to the people, the communities, the places that we're visiting. So not just drive by or go to a few wee places, but really feel connected and, make the journey and the whole, culture of the place part of the experience. So we tried to do this through stories, through music and through local knowledge. We want visitors to come and know where everything is around them, so they could go to a wee remote place and they know they can find things. They don't feel lost. They feel, good and accomplished, that they know where everything is, and they feel that they've had a really nice connection to the local place and area. In terms of the industry, we've got an amazing industry in Scotland. Some of the most hard-working people that I've ever come across with multiple jobs, keeping everything going and running the community groups, and we really wanted to give them really good technology, so give them the benefits of advanced technology, but make it quite accessible so it doesn't cost too much and they don't have to have like a degree in computer science to use it.
Well, I think that is the thing that people sometimes can find the thought of creating an app or getting involved in this kind of digital world a little bit daunting. But you did talk about telling stories there, and I think that's really an important part of how we're able to do that digitally now. And of course, one of the side effects, I suppose, of the pandemic is that we have gone increasingly online, and we are probably more comfortable across the generations with using technology and interacting with technology now.
I think we've definitely seen that, and I think use of QR codes is much more prevalent, and it's a really good way to connect to information on web pages. And we've seen it's almost a wanting people to explore the local area, because during the pandemic a lot of the usage we could see was local people rediscovering the local areas, which was really nice to see.
We talked about storytelling there. Tell us about the story of Whereverly, sort of your journey from your first Howland Discovery App to where you are today.
Well, about 4 or 5 years ago, we basically we had a wee company before that became part of a bigger company, and we were really looking for something new to do, and we came across a challenge at the Scottish Government CivTech Accelerator from Transport Scotland, and it was a really simple, lovely challenge. It was like, how do you get people to leave the beaten track and discover more? The beaten track being the A9. And we looked at things like what's stopping people, that they're scared to go off the beaten track in case they can't find it again. They don't actually know what's off the beaten track, so we need to help them. And a lot of technical services don't work when you don't have an internet connection. So having an app that works offline seemed like a really nice way to do it. And from that, we were even luckier. We managed to get the the app for the North Coast 500, explores Stirling, Scotland starts here, the Coig, Falkirk Explored, Scottish Islands Passport, Badenoch's the Storylands and others. So it was really good. A lot of the problems I think that we solved are faced by other people, which is really, really good. So we create the technology we could take elsewhere. So we've had a really lucky journey with lots of like amazing people from universities to the tourism community helping steer us to the cultural community.
Well, I'm sure that hard work and talent had something to do with it as
Oh,
well.
and luck.
But yeah, you talked there about some of the problems that your apps were trying to solve, and the issue of connectivity is obviously a big one in the Highlands and Islands. But what are the sort of main issues that you are trying to provide the answers for? Is it around sort of creating more sustainable tourism, more responsible tourism, managing visitors, or is it more around storytelling or enabling businesses to collaborate better together? What are the sort of main areas?
There's a few areas, and I think there's been a wee bit of an evolution just with the bigger factors that have been happening across the world. That idea of supporting in a local area in terms of you know finding the information, so reaching out to people in the community to get it, but also make it available, in an offline fashion. For a lot of the places, there's poor connectivity. So I think that support and in locations like one of the kind of key things that we want to achieve. There's other things that have come through that I think that, we've got an amazing thing in the tourism sector in Scotland, but the problem is over tourism can cause real problems for people in villages. If you can't park, even if it's a localised area, if you can't park the car through summertime because there's too many tourists in the one spot, that's been something that's been prevalent that we've been aware of for about 4 or 5 years now. And I think there's that whole visitor management piece, I think, is really important for the whole sustainability. We don't want to unlock now and get everybody coming back in the same problems as before. There's big opportunities, I think, in things like IoT, so where you can see how busy car parks are, you can reroute people to places that are less busy. So letting the visitor in the pre-planning stage know when they're coming, what will be busy, what won't be busy, and maybe in the day of the visit, giving them notifications to move them on, or let them know just round that corner, don't park in that grass verge. There's a car park and it's half full, you can get parked there, so don't do anything really daft. So I think there's a real opportunity now to kind of restructure, the tourist experience, not just because I think businesses just want people back, and I totally get that, but I think we can do it in a way that we won't have the same problems we saw like a few years ago, happening in a few years' time. So I think it's quite an interesting time in the industry.
What are IoTs, Ian?
Oh, IoT is the Internet of Things. So, for example, it could be sensors in car parks. We're working on a project with the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park, Perth and Kinross Council, Stirling Council and some government bodies. And it's looking at how do you manage busyness in the national park. So, for example, we're measuring, the busyness of car parks. So now people can see in a map, rather than just a map with like sort of flat data, it's dynamic data telling you, that, oh, Balmaha is really busy. The car park's like red. So people can see not to go to Balmaha, they could maybe go to one of the other car parks around Loch Lomond. And it's using sensors that pass data over the LoRaWAN network, which is a low power network that then gets connected to the internet, and we can kind of use that data. But also it can help, that gathering of data can help more strategic planning decisions, and maybe put on a wee bus route here, or maybe we need more car parking space there. So I think it's like a layer of information that it's not really been available, but sensors are lower cost. LoRaWAN is in its ascendancy as a network to get data out of remote areas where you might not have like good internet connectivity. So I think it's got a lot of promise for the future.
You spoke about sensors and using the Internet of Things, and that's one development, I suppose, that's, as you say, on the rise. But what other sort of exciting developments are you seeing within digital that are allowing you to find new and creative ways to make journeys memorable?
I'm seeing there's beautiful ways you can bring things to life. So like through AR.
Augmented reality, right?
Yeah, augmented reality, sorry. Augmented reality. So we've worked in projects The ones that stand out, like Badenoch, the Storylands, in which they brought together some amazing buildings and heritage sites through working with a really amazing Scottish 3D modeler called Bob Marshall, and they basically brought together six of their amazing heritage sites. So they've got Ruthven Barracks, you've got the Hill Forts, and I think that you go now and you can get a sense of the place, but to see it how it used to look, that was a magical experience. There's nice little things coming through, such as, like 360 as well. We've done some work in Falkirk in which you can go into rooms of a big stately home and see the walls and see that you can't enter this building, but you can see it through this 360 video, which is, it's quite an immersive when you phone up and you're getting a real sense of the place, and that's quite low cost. So that's a really good sort of new technology that's coming through. We're seeing things like, coming through like gamification. So, like in the Scottish Islands passport, you basically get a badge for going to all the little Scottish islands. And it's an amazing way to make people not just go to the mainlands of the islands, but also visit all the islands around and kind of share that and spread people out more.
You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned augmented reality and 360 videos. Now, those are maybe things that perhaps businesses could develop, but certainly 360 filming, relatively low cost, and could be incorporating into their own content, existing websites and other channels. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I think that you don't create for just creation's sake, and I think it's good. So have a good think about where's my content going to go, so as many people can see it as possible. So it's a case that we can handle it through our apps, but it might be, videos are really good as well. We're seeing demand for videos. So like if you're on like a website, maybe make a video and it says 1,000, picture says 1,000 words, a video says 10,000 words. So it's a really good way to experiment, and it's a very, very low cost. Camera phones are brilliant just now for creating really good videos that people, they want to get a feel for the place, for the people and the experience they'll have. So that's a really good opportunity, and that can be displayed through, it can go into apps, it can go into websites. 360 I think is something that, for heritage sites, and I think it's got a real good potential. And that simply is, you can there'll be local practitioners who take 360 shots and almost have it into like amazing rooms and stuff, uh, taking the 360 picture, and it's quite low cost versus something like augmented reality, when you have to build a model, get lots of his heritage information and create this model that then goes into the AR experience, and that's a lot more involved, and a lot more time and a lot more effort goes into it, so more costly. But 360 video can be pretty mind blowing, and the work we've seen in Falkirk, they've obviously got the Explore Falkirk app, and they've seen it. People have fed back and liked it, and they've just went around more places doing it. So I think video would be a good starting point. Then if you're lucky enough to have an amazing like space, the 360 can be a real nice little addition.
What would the first steps be then for any business that's watching here who thinks that perhaps there might be a digital solution or an app that they could potentially develop around either their business or for their local area more generally?
I would have a look at what's out there already. Like is there maybe an app that covers their area? How do I get involved in that? If there's not, I would actually have a think about, okay, am I part of a DMO? And hopefully people are part of the tourism groups and the DMOs, because those people are working so hard to lift the areas and industries. So and if they don't have an app, maybe speak to them and just see, is it credible? Is it sustainable? Because once you get to a certain level, economies of scale kick in, and having an app for a village might not work, but for a whole region could work, or maybe a few regions can work together. So I would just get looking, what's above me? Is there something I could tap into? Is there something I'm part of that could have an app? Maybe could my DMO work with other DMO and get something that's got a really good flavour or experience, with a few of the DMOs working together. So I would just kind of scan and look around and get talking to people.
Well, it's all very exciting, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me along.